This is Christopher Bell, and Eastbound International Speedway is your NASCAR home track.
Welcome to Newfoundland, Labrador, home of NASCAR's most easterly home track.
An old dirt track here or something like that?
About 10 or 15 years ago, they built a dirt track, got people interested in racing.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring Newfoundlanders and Labradorians the opportunity to get into the higher level NASCAR. It's basically set the stage for anybody who want an opportunity to become professional. People that didn't even know where Avondale was to at one point, and now it's recognized all over North America.
At Eastbound International Speedway and the Newfoundland and Labrador title. From Conception Bay, South Newfoundland and Labrador, Wayne Walsh.
Just growing up, my family and everyone around me, I always loved racing and watched it a lot. So naturally, I always started watching it and I just went forward a bit more and I just ended up progressing to racing at Eastbound. Racing gives me the confidence to say I can do something that I put my mind to, and I can do this and I can succeed at what I want.
Welcome into Tim's Corner Live. This is episode number 56. It gets away from us, Dylan. It's been a while. This is 56. Tim Terry, Dylan Langell, and Paul Strickland Jr. Because Dylan, we don't have a flagman tonight.
Yes,
we do, but we do, but we don't.
We don't have our typical flag man. It's like when someone's on vacation or there's a rain out, someone can't get in, we get a pinch hit. So we do have a flag man here tonight.
Well, Rob's more than a pinch hit, but do we know where Denver is? Denver's been gone for 2 weeks.
Colorado. He started.
Colorado. Yeah, wait,
Okay,
yeah. Wade Will, you got the Wade Wilson joke down. That's perfect.
Do you have a toothpick in your mouth, Paul? Little Razor Ramon. Okay, R.I.P.
We were just talking about WrestleMania coming before we came on air. Dylan, what did you think of that?
WrestleMania was fun in between all the, the NASCAR weekend in Richmond. It's great to see Stone Cold Steve Austin making their return. I know Paul and I were messaging each other just like, oh my gosh, Steve Austin's back. Yeah. And we were marking out big time, to use wrestling terms, right, Paul?
Yeah, the most stupendous WrestleMania in a long time. And it's crazy. We've been disappointed year after year with just dismal matches and awful storylines. Everything built up. Everything just came to a head at WrestleMania. Like you said, with Stone Cold coming back, awesome. It's like 20 years ago he was in a wrestling ring. I was still, I think, a teenager then. Maybe. I don't know. My math's not really good. But growing up, to have your childhood come back and to show that he could still kick ass with the best of them was really, really cool. Awesome. And The Undertaker's seminar to get himself into the Hall of Fame. How about that? That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. A whole major event. It was great to see. I watched bits and pieces of it. I actually didn't watch it live this year. So cardinal sin, I guess, on my end. But
that's because you're always working.
Well, I was busy, I think, retooling a website, I think, on Sunday. So there were some things that I needed to do in the background, but it is racing season, so it is getting busy. I think we're 45 days away from the season opener at Scotia Speedworld. -6 on that's like 39 to 660. And another racetrack that hasn't released a schedule yet that we can't say anything about, Dylan, but I know it's coming because I know I've been working on some stuff in the background, and I know you've been working on some stuff in the background too. Can't say anything else, but it's getting close.
Yeah, it is getting real close. And if everything falls in line, it's going to be one of the first racetracks running in the Maritime. So, yeah, it's really closing in. What is it? Of course, my phone's charging. It's April 6th today. So, yeah, we're really zeroing in on the middle of May there, May 15th for Speedway 660. They're officially the first track up and running. There's all this talk, Tim, about maybe a test and tune here and there as the drivers want to get their cars in working order. If you've been slacking a little bit, crunch time's coming.
It's time to get in the garage and time to get in the shop and work on it. You mentioned test and tune. I spoke with Ken Cunning about a week ago, and I asked him about test and tune because usually it's the week before the season. And he said that is the plan right now, tentatively. They've got some things to do to the racetrack in order to get it race ready before we do go racing. If you remember last year, they were painting the walls for, I think, 3 weeks or something like that, or 2 weeks before we went going. So there's some maintenance to do. And you can't do it when the snow's on the ground. You can't do it when it's cold.
Especially after Monday.
Exactly. So that, as far as I know, and as far as Ken knows, he's planning on that weekend before the season opener for Scotia. But again, to be announced based on weather, based on contractors, based on whoever needs to do the work. So keep your tabs on scotiaspeedworld.ca and all that fun stuff. Speed Sport is coming up, though. So we've got a couple of things. Let's start with this one. We went really on brand with the T-shirt this year. So this is our T-shirt reveal. I want to thank Lee Jordan at LJ Designs for this one. And Dylan, you've seen it. It's on the screen. It's the in a committed relationship with race cars and bad decisions. And Paul's looking at it for the first time because he just popped it up on the screen. What do you think of that?
I'll take a 3X. I'll get my address here to you on Snapchat or something.
Yeah, it's
neat.
on.
I like that.
It's on brand with what we do, and it's different. It's going to be on a gray or a charcoal sort of shirt. That's kind of the mock-up. It's not exactly the right color, but that's what it's going to be. Lee's working on them. He's going to spit them out. I've got to go pick them up. They hope to be in by Speed Sport in April. So if you want one of these shirts, it'll be available in April. We have a bunch of other stuff that's available. We still got hats. We got a couple of bucket hats, I believe, still left. So
one of them is mine.
One of them is yours. One of them is Denver's. One of them is Meredith. I think Nicole Richard has her name on one of them, sort of thing. So we will make sure that we get them. But Speed Sport is going to be the place. You can see it on your screen. The date's April 22 to 24, Moncton Coliseum. Make sure that you are there and stop in and see us one of those days. I know Joe and the crew are extremely busy getting ready for that. I know Petty International Raceway is going to be represented. The Atlantic Modified Tour is going to be represented. And then you're going to have a bunch of other cars that are in there from race teams getting ready for 2022. So if it's not on your calendar yet, be sure to get there. Radical Speed Sport coming up in a week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever it ends up being.
Yeah.
It's getting close. Now, The only reason why Danny Vitch is in the chat tonight, because he is trying to campaign for his spot in tomorrow night's TCM All-Star Showcase presented by Shady Brook Enterprises. Big thanks to Dylan Black, by the way, for helping us out with that. Not a shameless plug, because Dylan is in the fan boat as well. We have one more spot available tonight. So maybe you're not an iRacing fan. Maybe you don't really care about tomorrow. But there are 4 drivers that are looking to get one more spot into the race tomorrow. So Dylan Black, Dave Horton, Danny Vitch, and Jason Goss. One of our Newfoundland drivers, and Jason, won the Open last year, didn't have a greatest run last night. Dave Horton on the wrong side of the inch last night. Danny Vitch had, I think, some hardware issues, like with 15 laps to go. And Dylan didn't have the night that he wanted to either. So you can hit on your screen, if you're watching us on Facebook, hit one of those names and let us know who you want to see in the showcase coming up tomorrow night. And you can see it here live on the Tim's Corner Facebook page. You can see it live.
Do I get a vote?
I mean, so technically, as the page, we can't vote. So on your personal account, if you want to go on your personal account, vote away. Do whatever you want to.
All right. Because I hear that Danny Vitch is a great guy.
Danny Vitch is a great guy. Absolutely.
Danny Vitch is a great guy.
Here's the thing. Before we get over to Rob, I want to tell this story. I was talking to Danny last night, and he was telling me about the run that he had last night. He was running up in the top. I think he was second in the Consi, running up in the top 10, whatever. And I said, well, this is easy, Danny. I said, I think we had 24 votes or something on last night's fan vote, because it was a last minute deal. Like, we didn't really advertise that we were doing a fan vote. So I said, if you get all those Roma Brothers Racing people to vote, you should be easy in. He's like, they don't like me anymore. I'm not a part of the team. LOL. So I don't know if the Roma boys are going to back Danny or not tonight, but I know Dylan is on there for a second night, because he finished second last night in the fan vote to Quentin Carpenter. Dave Horton's mainstay with us, great guy from PEI, and Jason Goss obviously is quick on all of our eastbound races. He's up near the front of the field. So cast your vote. We will tell you who the winning vote is, or the winning driver is, at the end of this evening, and they will race tomorrow night in the showcase. There's a $150 purse. Thank you to Shady Brook Enterprises for providing that. You can see that live here tomorrow on Tim's Corner Motorsports. So that's that. Let's talk some real race cars, though. Even though there are some real race car names on there, let's talk some real racing, though, with the most familiar, recognizable person you're going to find at Scotia Speedworld or on any flag stand in Atlantic Canada. Rob Bowness is with us. Rob, welcome in. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Tim. Thanks for the invite.
How's the winter been so far?
Pretty good, Work, come home, have a nap.
You haven't been to any Blue Rodeo concerts or anything, have you?
No, I skipped that one. I tried to make it, but last minute, I couldn't get there.
It was
Rob,
good.
Rob, a radio guy. I could have given you some free tickets.
Oh, geez.
Now he says it, right?
Then I might have been able to go.
Free is the right price for Blue Rodeo.
Yeah.
We are live and interactive here this evening with Rob. Drop us a question or a comment down below. We're gonna have a chat this evening about race cars and everything else. So one of the most recognizable faces probably at the racetrack that some people might not know. They see you waving the sticks up there. So you did race before when all this started. So we'll start at the start. How did you get your start in racing?
Well, like a lot of us at the track, I was born into it. My father was a race car driver in the 70s at Atlantic Speedway. Most people know it as Atlantic Splash Adventure Park now. And he raced there until early 80s. Then he retired, got away from it for years. My brother wanted to get into it, early 90s, built a street stock. He ran that for a couple of years. I tried it one night. I'm sure there's pictures circulating the internet of where I parked it, where Jamie Dillman parked his Thunder car or Lightning car. I'm the reason tires are down there now. Mm-hmm. I split the wall top to bottom. Didn't work out well. So then got myself a Duke car at the time and bought that off Brian Shatford. He had an A-main car, constant winner, up front all the time. And I took it and I turned it into a third place in the G feature car. That was the highlight of my rookie season. And then just raced 4 or 5 years, and then had a kid, decided spend my time doing something else. Got away from it for a little bit. And then, like most of the retired racers, somebody asks you to go work at a racetrack. And I have to blame Patty Lawrence for that one. Moosehead Speedway Exhibition Park. Patty was an official and needed some help. And that's how this all started.
And the rest is history. I know, Dylan, when we chat about, the old days, I know one of the first tracks you come up with usually is Moosehead. So, Rob, I'll ask Dylan's question for him. What do you remember about Moosehead being there and being on the official side of things?
Moosehead was exciting. If nothing else, there was a lot of stuff that people remember very vividly that happened there that really didn't happen a lot of other places. I actually raced my car there opening night, a week after it was totaled in the tractor tires at Scotia. I just made it out, make some laps just to help them out with car count. And that was pretty much it for my racing there. It was tight. It had good banking in the turns, kind of like Petty, only it wasn't permanent. The Jersey barrier walls had a little more give in them than most concrete walls. So you'd hit them, you'd fly back out, or you go up the wall. We had the backstretch fence torn down from one end to the other with a sportsman car. Then we rebuilt it and finished the night. There was some wild stuff that went on there. There was a lot of guys coming up. I remember Frank Frazier Jr. Frankie showed up with a sportsman car when he first started and just learning how to do it. And, the days of Sean Turple in the hobby stock, stuff like that. And the thing everybody else remembers is the pitting in the building. That didn't last very long. Fire marshal got a hold of us, everybody outside. But I know there's a bunch of guys out there and they're waiting to say it. The tow truck getting T-boned under the flag stand by a Thunder car.
Care to let us in on that?
You heard. He turned left in front of him and buried a Honda Civic underneath it, right underneath my feet. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that's not the first time that an accident has happened under your feet, though.
No, wasn't the last one either. There's a couple legend cars there last season.
There's been a couple of legend cars in the last few years that have tried to get up into your flag stand.
Yes. Nobody has made it yet, but at Moosehead, I did have the hood off Matthew Scott's Honda Civic being driven by Brad Wadden that night come at me. I threw the green. I looked down and turned around. The hood was flying at the flag stand. And instant yellow to pick up some debris and catch my breath.
Change your shorts, right?
Yeah.
That's what actually came over the radio.
Now, I know we have a couple of folks watching, and there's some returns starting on social media. Corey Lund and Adam Hiscock want to say hello and good evening. And I know Adam from Eastbound, and I know there's some things coming up the pipe that we can't talk about yet, but I know Mike James spent 2 hours with me almost on the phone today. So, racing season in Newfoundland's getting kicked off. I want to talk about Newfoundland in a bit, Rob, because we went over there a couple of years ago. And Paul can bring up the photo. Tony Leonard wants to know if you've got your racing shorts on tonight.
Yeah, of course I do.
So on the screen right now, and I found this on Facebook from, I think, 2017 from a test and tune where you didn't have shorts on in the flag stand. I think that's the only time I've ever seen you in a flag stand without shorts on.
It's a rare occasion when I don't have it. It must be fairly brisk.
I everywhere else you've had shorts on. So that's the rare picture right there, folks, if you want to take a snapshot of that.
But even day one, I was in shorts.
And it got chilly over there. How did that all come to be?
That started when I was race director at Scotia. Get up in the tower, and as you know, it gets warm up there. And race director, I got a lot of things, pens, notepads, phone, radios, all that. So cargo shorts, stuffing things in it. And just easier to lug stuff around. Then when it just became habit for me going to the track. And then I started flagging in them. And then people started to expect it. So I just, all right, if I wear pants, people are going to be disappointed. But, and then there was the Pro Stock opener a few years back. As soon as I put pants on, when it got real cold, it started snowing. So I said, nope, no more. So shorts, as you've seen in Shediac, on the flag stand in October. So
I think there was one of those AMP legend car races in like the middle of October, Thanksgiving, that you had them on. Like it's a common occurrence. I think now I think the only thing we can liken it to is Mike Kaplan in white pants.
yes,
Which by the way, apparently the whole folklore is that you have a whole closet of white pants. Is that true?
I wish I did, because I would sell them to Mike. I don't know where these 50 pairs of pants came from or went to, but I got 2 pairs when Ernie handed me over all the stuff for Scotia Speedworld, the uniforms and all that. There was 2 pairs of pants in. And I can't imagine anybody would steal 48 pairs of white pants.
So I guess that's a question for Kaplan.
When we ever have the Mike Kaplan night, I will wear white cargo shorts.
There you go. I didn't know the white cargo. Well, I mean, you wore all kinds of different colors, I guess. But Dylan, I think the one thing I can take from that is Rob said the one thing. It gets hot up there in the tower at Scotia.
Oh boy, does it ever! With 2 big dudes announcing a pro stock race that won in July. Oh my goodness!
And Brandon Campbell beside us producing the show.
So 3 dudes. Brandon's a runt. He weighs nothing, but still, the computer's running next to us. And if the pro stocks were feeling like 100 degrees in there, it felt like 98 in that booth. Rob, during those hot summer days, I know we're going to bounce back and forth, but you're out in the elements the entire time. You're talking about the cold, but how about some of those scorching hot August or July nights in the flag stand?
Yeah, it gets a little brutal there. There is nowhere to hide. You can't put an umbrella up because somebody's going to complain you're blocking the view. Some of my predecessors, like Ralph Oakey, Art Steves, I don't know how they did this in like 90-some degree temperatures, and they're wearing pants. And I'm just dying up there and like chugging as much water, Gatorade, as I can. And some nights it gets just brutal. It's hard to keep focused when you get way too hot, but eventually somebody will yell something in the radio and you're like, oh yeah, I'm flagging a race.
I'm sure we'll dive into the technique and everything with flagging, but when you started at Moosehead, what were you doing as an official? Were you in the flag stand right away, or were you driving the tow truck? What got your start doing the officials?
Sorry, I got a bit of bronchitis going. When I started, Patty just needed some help around the track. They didn't have lighting all the way around, like for stop, go, caution. They didn't have the Christmas tree of lights in all the turns. So sometimes I'd be in a turn with a yellow and a red, or sometimes I'd be helping with a lineup or whatever needed to be done, clean up. When there was a wreck there, everybody was grabbing a broom because it was usually a huge mess. And then as things progressed, myself, Billy Powell, we were taking turns on the flag stand with Patty. Then Billy was flagging, I was assisting. Then everybody else got busy. Then I ended up being the flag man with actually Patty Lawrence's brother, Mike, was my assistant for a while. And that was it right up until it closed down.
What was your reaction when Moosehead, or I guess at that time would have been Exhibition Park Speedway? What was your reaction when it shut down, and only after 3-4 years?
Disappointment, a lot of shock. Had no idea. It was a very sudden thing. World Trade Center took over the property and all that, and I guess they didn't want the track, and they just were like, it's done. We're done. After 1 year of owning it, they were like, we're out. And it was great. It was everybody out in that area. It was close to tow. Yeah, there was a little head butting between Scotia and Moosehead, who's racing where or whatever. Everybody wants their brand to win, but we were trying to work along with everybody else. Then all of a sudden it was done. we ended the season. We never had a banquet. We had no idea what would happen. It just poof, gone. So everybody was in shock at the time. And, you know, I have no hard feelings towards anybody that was involved in it. It was what it was. It was a business decision by World Trade to get rid of it. And, you know, it went, and I just wish like maybe the staff had known earlier, but they didn't. It was just, I found out through the grapevine it was gone and was like, oh, okay, I guess we're done then. And I just moved on from there and thought about going racing again, but nah.
And now there's just a quarter of the straightaway, a little bit of the front wall, and part of turn 1 left.
Yeah. Well, there's more parts of it around than you think.
The Jersey barriers, the Jersey barriers have heard.
Scotia Speedworld.
So what else was brought? So what was brought
the
over?
grandstands were taken down. There was like parts of the grandstand ended up in Scotia, Jersey barriers, stuff like that. Anything they could use, they like Dexter's took it down and took anything they could use. So, and you have another racetrack, so why not use some of it?
So they bring all the Jersey barriers, they bring some stands. How do they bring Rob Bowness over to the airport?
That's what I asked when I got called. Mike Ledwidge called me one night and he just said, hey, we're looking for people. Would you like to come? And I made the joke with him, I guess you hit the bottom of the barrel. And he was like, no. And I went up and met with them and I got hired on to be a track steward and help out at the back gate every now and then, and got my foot in the door. And then, you know, the rest is history, just different jobs along the way. And here I am now.
Was that like pretty much immediately Moosehead shuts down, you're at Scotia the next season, or was there a year off of vacation?
I believe it was the next season. I am terrible with dates and timelines and all that. I'd have to look things up to find out exactly what years they were, but I think it was the next spring. Mike had called me and asked me to go. And I always got along with Mike. That's probably why he called me and not Ernie, because Ernie was the race director when I raced. And, you know, I might have done some things like most of us do and didn't get along with him all the time. But when I started working for him, we got along great. And he kept me on. So.
Tim, you're good with dates, and I'm sure you remember back in the early days there with Rob getting started.
It was before my time.
I know, but you would have been a fan. You were a fan, though.
I was like knee high to a grasshopper. It was like early 2000s.
So yeah. I was only 6 feet tall back then.
Well, you were like negative feet to a grasshopper then. Okay. Yeah. It's been a long while. And I know there's from the Scotia perspective of the folks that are still around there. I know Laura had a little bit of some time off there at the end of last year, but yourself, I mean, Lawrence has been there. I think Lawrence always tells me that he predates me in the tech shed by 2 years. So he's been there since like 2005, according to his math.
Yeah, that's probably right.
There's not many of us that have been around there since, 15, 20 years. It time flies, I guess, when you have fun, right?
Yeah. It's, like Kirby's there now. When I took over, Kirby had stopped. Laura, Scott, Williams, they've been there. They've been there for me. Anything I ask them, they're there for me, including heading up to New Brunswick to help me in Shediac when I've gone up and helped out up there. There's not many. Ken Cunning took over as general manager the first time, the same year I got hired on. And I remember meeting with him and Jim Hallahan, and then there was a big discussion all of a sudden that we're bringing legends in and going to run them weekly. And I'm like, I haven't even done anything yet. I don't know if I should decide on this. But yeah, I worked for Ernie for a couple of years, and then he left, and Harry Poole asked me to take over as race director, and did that for 6 years. And then I moved on and took a couple of years off, and then I came back.
Jackie Tanner says the last race at Moosehead was 2001. So apparently you started at Scotia in 2002 by his logic.
Yeah.
The net being the next spring. So I guess thank you, Jackie. That at least works. I know I'm going to tell a Laura Williams story because I know Bob Goodwin is probably somewhere watching because we have Luke McLaughlin coming up in the second half of this show. But Bob was down on a whim at Scotia last year, and he told me, he said, I just want to watch a race. And I had mentioned on the PA that we still hand score all of our cars in Halifax. The only time we bring in transponders for the weekly show is usually the Sportsman 100 and maybe the AJK or the Shriners or whatever, the major races. Bob couldn't believe that we did it. So he came up and the first thing he did was he gave Laura a hug. He said, I don't know how you do it. And Laura said, I could teach you one day. I know it's not easy because I scored at Lake Dowsett earlier this year, or last year, I guess, in the fun day that they had. You mentioned doing race directing, back in the pits, helping out there. Obviously, you're on the flag stand. Is there any job that you haven't done at a racetrack yet that you still want to do?
Oh, I don't know if there's anything I want to do. I faked it through some tech inspections one night. Back in the Craig Swanwhite sportsman deal era. Yeah, I was shy on some tech guys, and basically you were asked if you were cheating, and if you said no, you got a sticker. So I'd like to stay out of the tech shed. I don't know. It's hard to go up and announce with you because I'm usually out in front of you.
Well, at least I have somebody, I don't want to say a lightning rod, but at least somebody that I can chat with back and forth. And I know you're one of the most favorite staff members of our fans because you are one of the two that get Twizzlers every week.
There is that. Like I have gone into rehab over the winter from the Twizzler. Oh my goodness. I will say one thing on those cold nights you were talking about, Dylan. Twizzlers get hard as a rock sitting on the flagstand, and they are a little tough to chew. so yeah, I appreciate it. Sign crew and even John Bull, Amanda Bull, they all had me hooked up. I had licorice coming out of every pocket one night. Everybody seemed to have a bag of licorice for me. So
if you have the ones with like the cream or the filling or whatever they had last year, do they get hard on the flag stand?
I wouldn't know. You'd have to ask cleanup crew. I'm not a fan of those ones. I slipped them in the door.
The creamsicle ones? You don't like them?
No, I don't like creamsicles.
Well, they've got orange ones, which are the creamsicle ones, and then they've got the red ones. The red ones I think are better than the creamsicle ones.
No. Brandon
Filling's a little gritty.
Brandon Campbell messaged me and wanted me to let you know you're the best flagman ever, but after that, I don't know.
Oh, I'm getting messages from them too, but I won't read them.
Okay.
By the way, Bob Goodwin is watching. She's one smart cookie and very lucky to have her. And our other scorer that's doing the same thing every week, Sherry Densmore, is watching as well. And she says we can teach you how to score. So, Rob, when's the last time you scored a race?
I think Sherry might have been in the tower that night. We had a laptop go blue screen on us when we opened it. And I said, chuck it in the corner. Everybody grab paper. I got 2 cars a lap while trying to. I don't know how Paul from past years ago used to read off the lineup every 50 laps and keep an eye on the track. I couldn't write down 3 cars at a time. I was just like, you know what? I'm not doing it. I'm done. It's brutal how Laura does it, especially with me bouncing around behind her, trying to keep an eye on stuff. But I've never seen anything like it in my life.
The first race I did at Lake Dowsett was a feature. I think it was the 4 cylinders, and I think there was 20 something of them on the racetrack. They don't go as fast as a sportsman car, but when you get 20 of them zipping across the line at about the same time, it gets a little rough.
Oh yeah. Well, the old days of Scotia running the Thunder and Lightning down in the infield and Laura trying to score those coming out of the turn, I'm just like, I'll just go by whatever you write down and I'll call that the race.
Close
speaking
enough.
of Lake Doucette, do you remember our time down there, Tim, when I was race director many moons ago?
That was like 2010, 2011, wasn't it?
Yeah. I remember that old guy coming in looking for the guy in charge. And Tim go, he's right there. He come over screaming at me so bad that his teeth flew out of his mouth. He caught them, threw them back in, kept yelling, didn't miss a beat.
They still do that down there. I think, Dylan, I don't know if it was you and me were down there for last season's East Coast Mini Stock Tour race, or if it was the year before and it was me and Steve Austin, but there was a girl that came in and she didn't even bat an eye at us. She walked up to the tower. I knew she didn't belong there because she wasn't a part of their staff. Said something, walked down, and left. And it goes on down there from time to time. I know you and me, Dylan, we had somebody come up to the tower at 660 this year that was about the same thing, but he didn't get upstairs. So there's sometimes those things do happen. But yeah, I remember that back in 2010. That was Steve Austin says he remembers that. So at least I'm not going terribly crazy. But yeah, there was a couple of those that did happen down there. But that Lake Dowsett race back in 2010, 2011, I think started it went up to that Napa Sportsman race eventually that Steve Ross won the bag full of money at. And now they're getting another race down there, obviously this year with the new series. So it's always great to see those racetracks succeed and go on. And I know it's gone through a couple of different reincarnations with, the Southwest Stock Car Association. Adam Bloy was, I think, down there when we were down there, and now it's going to a whole different level.
Oh yeah. And that outlaw race they had down there with that Bush North car. David Hino in the Bush North car. You get around these tracks, you see things that you wouldn't imagine you'd see, but there they are.
He was down there a couple of years ago with late model. I think maybe just before the pandemic, maybe 2019, I think it was, or 2020. I'm sure somebody's watching that they can correct me, but I know he was back down there racing. So their sportsman class and their V8 class is starting to come back up. You see people that come and go and what have you, but it's really good to see. Brandon Campbell has hit the chat now. Hey Rob, who's your favorite Center for Speed staff member? I think I have Tony beat.
Oh, no doubt. No, best lineup guy ever at Center for Speed that I've worked with that was named Brandon.
I mean, he didn't say that. He said staff member. So I guess
Greg Turner.
I was thinking Laura, but that's just me.
That goes without saying.
Yes.
Because without Laura, there's no Rob.
Yeah.
Without Rob, there's no Laura.
Boys, talking about that old getting yelled at thing, Rob would know this because he's been at Valley Raceway too. You can hear everything from the stands in the announcer booth, right, Rob? What do you think about the dirt track down there?
The first time I was in awe. That would be the Tyler Howland rolled on in turn 1 or turn 3 on the first lap in Jamie Dillman's car. And then he wrecked Jamie's other car in the next heat race. And then I don't know what happened. The flagman started giving out lucky dogs and then all heck broke loose. But it's come a long way.
Yep.
And I went down this year, much smoother show. Great to see everybody got somewhere to play. Got a little worried, but I see that new management's got you guys back going again. So all the best for everybody down there.
Would you ever consider pinch hitting if they said, hey, we need a flagman? Would you play in the dirt for a Sunday?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Don't wear your white shorts. Don't wear white shorts and you'll be fine.
That's why I was there the first time, but then I refused to get on the flag stand because the guy seemed too gung-ho. I was like, I'll just let him go on his own. I'll just stand back and watch.
He ate a Valley Raceway burger, Tim, was just chilling.
After a Valley Raceway burger, that's all you can do, right?
Oh, food down there was great.
Yep. I know Steve Austin's watching too, and he tells me he's got his racetrack list mapped out. I think there's only 1 or 2 that he's missing. Is there any racetrack in the Maritimes on your list that you haven't been in the flag stand at that you want to wave sticks at?
Well, there's one I'd have to cross the Atlantic Ocean to. I'd love to get up in the flag stand at Eastbound. I'd much rather do that than work the cleanup crew. They have some big wrecks over there. Where else? Sydney, I haven't been on flag stand in Sydney yet. Really, I stopped in for an hour last year or a year before. I pit crewed there once for Mike McKenzie many moons ago. But I think I've been on all the other flag stands. I haven't been to Miramichi.
Oh.
Ooh.
So I've got one on you and Steve Austin then.
Yeah.
I've only flagged one race in my life, and it was Miramichi.
I have flagged Fredericton. It was a little exciting coming down to Victory Lane when somebody opened the gate, which is also the stairs, as I was taking my first step. So I was like, yeah, I'll wait up here.
That flag stand is high too. Like, I don't know. We've measured that. That's got to be the biggest flag stand.
It very well could be.
I know Miramichi's got to be close. Obviously, Scotia's got to be close. But Scotia at least is sturdy. Petty is sturdy. Miramichi and Denver's not here to defend himself. So Miramichi's is a little bit, you're safe in there, but compared to Scotia, it seems like there's a little more give up there. But the one thing that I did learn is, and Dylan talked about technique earlier. So for those that are watching that said, all this flagman stuff is easy, I can tell you from the first race, it takes a little bit of time to get used to, because with Miramichi's holes, they're so close together that you grab one and the flags almost come out all at once. That's how Denver has it set up there. So for those that might think it's easy, is there any technique that you use and anything that advice-wise you can give out?
My biggest thing is whatever flag stand I'm in, I set my flags up the same way every time. And it's different. You'll see Weagle get up after me and he'll move stuff around, or Art used to move his around. I can't do what other people do. I have to have them the way I do. And then Billy Powell gets up and he's got his greens and his checkers, and he just throws everything off. I'm like, there's not enough holes, Bill. I don't know what Patty wants you to do with all these flags. But yeah. But speaking of flag stands that are a little rickety, Exhibition Park, Moosehead Premium Dry Speedway, that was a Jersey Bear wall all the way around, including the one that the flag stand was attached to. So if somebody smoked the wall with their car, the whole flag stand did one of these.
Ooh.
So you would just rock back and forth and wait for the flow to stop. That would shake you pretty good.
Well, when you get into a walker eventually, Rob, Sydney Speedway, it's like 2 steps. You'll be fine.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think there's 2 or 3 altogether. It's easy to get up into that one. That's easy.
Oh,
and
easier than the tower?
Yeah. And
it makes up for what you have to do to get into the tower, and then what you have to do to get in the announce booth, right, Tim? Oh, have they fixed that bottom step yet?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if they fixed the step that you broke last year. I'm calling. There was one race and I'm calling, and Dylan said, okay, well, I'll handle this Victory Lane. You don't worry about it. You stay up here. You did the last one. We're switching back and forth. And all of a sudden I hear bang. And I look down, and here he is almost on the ground, and Craig's trying to catch him. I was like,
little Craig Weagle trying to catch me. What's he going to do?
Are you okay down there? Yeah, I'm fine. Okay. It's fine. I look down, and here's my bottom step just destroyed.
Oh my, I broke that thing like I was getting paid for it. It just was going down, and I kept going, and thankfully the floor was there, because I'm pretty sure I would have kept going.
There's one part like in the very corner of that tower when I was running cable last year that's just a little soft, and I know it's on Dylan and Lyndon and Kyle's list. By the way, Lyndon's birthday was earlier this week, so happy birthday to him. But I know it's on their list among other things to get done and to work on. So that's one thing. And Steve did say their flag stand does move too when it does get hit. So it's right there on the racetrack, pretty close.
Yeah. It's fun when it moves.
Just for reference. Drew McEachran says that apparently, speaking of Steve Austin, Steve apparently is on an iceberg during the AMP weekend. So they are going to need a flagman for Sunday. There's an offer for, I know you've race directed at AMP. Have you ever flagged there?
No, that race directing, that was one of 2 times I've been there. And I think I race directed. That was it. Nothing more.
I've announced, I think, 1 show there. That was the year I did the League of Legends tour, and I think I did the 3-hour enduro because James Whitman kind of twisted my arm and said, "You got to do an enduro," and it's definitely different from there before. Blake Collicutt saying Greg Seward taking out the flag stand at Raceway Park was the scariest incident I ever saw involving a flagman. I know that one there. I know I wasn't. I know Vanderay didn't get up, and he got up close to the flag stand back in the tour in 2005 in Fredericton. I know there was that. you said obviously legend cars can't get that high to get up to you at Scotia, but there's been a couple of scares.
Oh yeah. Actually, when Patty Lawrence got hit in PEI by Stewart and Tucker and all the cars that crashed into it, I was supposed to be his assistant, but I had to work that weekend and I didn't go. And I told him Monday, I said, yeah, you still would have been alone in the flag stand when the car hit, because I would have been rolling in the grass. But you had to give him credit. He popped back up and he had the red flag in his hand when he stood up. But yeah, at Scotia, there's been some close calls. I know when I was race directing, Weagle caught a Sportsman tire right in the lights underneath the flag stand. And he was calling up that he was covered in glass. And we went down, and, yep, sure enough, took the green light out of it, glass all over Craig. It had the axle and everything in the wheel. So, yeah, you have to pay attention. Like, everybody's like, oh, you got to watch the leader. Well, if the leader's not the one coming at me, I can't watch the leader, because you never know what's going to come off a car, what come out of a car. We had that in Antigonish. John Fleming lost his cool box. Sarah McKay nailed it, covered Art and I with ice and plastic. Great show, though.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as everybody's okay at the end of the deal, it's always fun to watch.
Art and I were laughing.
Bob Goodwin says Hurricane Hal O'Neill at 660 was wild. That was a speed weekend deal. He said Tucker in Oyster Bed wasn't bad. He broke his wrist and his arm. So there's still some of that. And I mean, the safety and what have you has come a long way too. Looking at schedule this year, let's kind of change gears a little bit. I know we all get excited. Race car drivers, have those races that they circle on their calendar about, I want to get to, I'm excited about. I know I have the races. Dylan's excited for Lake Dowsett this year. Is there one or a couple of races that you're excited about to get up and go to the racetrack for?
I think the Mass Tour coming to Scotia is going to be a big deal. I'm just excited to get back to, as long as nothing changes, full capacity allowed, no masking. I'm probably one of the few flagmen that had the distinction of flagging in front of 0 people. And I will tell you, that was very eerie and very creepy. And it was me and Mike McCarthy in the infield waving at each other and turned around and looking at a lumber yard of grandstands. It was a little weird, but it was for the racers to get out and race.
I think Denver, I think the Miramichi deal that weekend, I think they were allowed like 50 or 75 people on Friday. And I think they had like a couple of dozen people in there. Dylan, we did the one race with Art.
Art had like what? 2 people. It was the 2 Jamie from JDM and the other camera girl. We were in Tower
and Verna.
Yeah, and that was it.
And the 5 Ronnie McKay fans in turn 1.
You mean the 5 anti-Ryan Van Orscott fans?
Yeah, what? Glass half full, glass half empty, right?
Yeah. It is weird. Yeah, I was talking with one of my non-racing friends. We were talking about racing in the pandemic, and we're talking. They were saying, like, with sports not having fans, did you have to announce to no fans? And I said, yeah, up in Sydney, and it was the weirdest thing of being at a place. And if it wasn't for the loud 5 fans in the corner, that place would have been completely silent. Besides the cars.
We had the TV thing too going on. So we had a couple of people at least watching from home. Steve Austin said Petty in 2022 because they ran one at the very start with no people in the grandstands. I think the 2021 race, I think technically was a no grandstands deal at the very start, but there's a few of those races. I was a lineup guy that night at Scotia. Again, one of those jobs that it's not everybody can do it because you need to have a tolerance, I think, of BS in order to keep up to it. And mine was almost hit that night. I think that the one thing that got me that night was they gave us, me and Tom, I think we're doing the lineups, and we got a Bandolero lineup that was the exact same finish or exact same lineup as the heat. And we were lining them up. The way you finished your heat is the way you started your feature. So we got the exact same lineup as the heat. And one of the Bandolero kids looked at me and said, that's not right. I said, I would assume that's not right. I haven't seen your heat race. He said, well, I won the heat race and I'm starting 6th. I said, well, that's not really my problem. Go get lined up. But it's one of those things, another one of those non-thankful jobs that if you're a fan, you're sitting in the stands and thinking, hey, they all roll out. It's all a great show. It all goes smooth, but there's people in the background trying to make sure that all does go smooth.
Yep. It's a thankless job back there because you don't know what the tower saw, what the tower did doing the lineup. You're just writing it down and reading it off. I worked with Tom a couple of nights there, and he was just in, because I'd been around longer than him. I was just like, line up, I don't care. Line up, I don't care. And he goes, what do we do now? Go watch the race. And I just walked off, took my headset off. And he was like, okay. I said, that's what you got to do, Tom. Stop trying to make everybody your friend.
And Brandon Campbell is in the chat saying, good thing I'm the best. I mean, he hasn't been to Scotia Speedworld, though, so we really can't say that he's the best in Nova Scotia, at least. I know he's helped out with 660 with the Bando Blast a couple of times, so I can attest from being in Shediac that he is okay. He is the most okayest lineup guy that I think I've ever seen. But it's again one of those jobs. It's an unthankful job. He definitely does a good job at it.
Oh yeah, he would even run right up to the tower to get the lineup, and then walk back down. And it was great. I thought he could have done a bunch of jobs, but I didn't want his head to get swollen.
Absolutely. Yeah. We got a couple more minutes before Luke McLaughlin pops on. Paul, how's the fan vote going? Show me the fan vote. Don't tell us who's winning. Ooh, is that a tie?
It's close. It's very close to a tie.
It's pretty close. Okay, so if you haven't voted yet, I think the spot is either down here or up in the corner somewhere. Put your fan vote down there. Danny is probably still in the chat saying that he is a great guy. So that's great. I know Dave Horton and them are watching. Dylan Black, Jason Goss, make your vote. You're going to make somebody really happy tonight because they're going to be able to race in the finale tomorrow night for Tim's Corner in the All-Star race. So not everybody gets to make that final show. So be sure to click that vote down there. I think it's a 1 vote difference now. So it right there, it just continues to change. So put your vote in down there and we'll get at it. Brandon Campbell says, I'm young and skinny, Rob. I exceed expectations.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
I don't. I get Dylan. I guess we'll leave it at that.
He worked better than the go-karts did. Now, Tim, before you go, I got to do one thing.
What's that?
Just let me grab one thing behind me here.
Well, okay.
You said today is episode 56.
Yep.
I would like to wish a happy birthday to my dad who started all this foolishness. Number 56 himself, Ross Bowness.
That's awesome.
He is the reason
Nice.
I am here today talking to you, and I appreciate everything he's done for me over the years, even when he was pit crewing for a guy who knew nothing about racing, and was always there for me when I needed him. So
now that you're looking at stuff, I do realize the shirt, and I think you're probably one of the best guys for shirts at the racetrack when you're not wearing an official shirt besides Jody McKenzie, and Jody hasn't been around recently. I know you and Dylan share not only the music stylings, you also share, I think you guys have a good taste in beers, right?
Yes.
Is that the F. Putin beer?
This is actually, I don't know how blue I can be on this show, but apparently the can, it translates loosely to Putin dickhead. And that is from Nine Locks Brewery and all the.
Well, Tim,
I make my donation to the Ukraine 8 beer at a time.
Tim, we had some F-bombs last week, so I think that
we had some F-bombs. We had Cy Harvey on already. I mean, we've had a couple of those so far in the last couple of weeks. So I know you did the advent calendar for Christmas. So yes. What was your favorite out of all of that?
Most of them said hell on them. They were pretty good. I don't speak German, but I assume it said yum beer. There was a couple that were absolutely brutal, and they were one sip and down the drain. But for the most part, it was pretty good.
Dylan, you showed up to Sydney one night with some like German thing or something.
No, I didn't. It was Pilsner.
What?
Old style Pilsner. Rob, you know.
Yep. There was a lot of that in the advent calendar.
I got accused of being from Saskatchewan by Craig McKay for drinking old style Pilsner. I'm just looking through the comments here. Your boy John Ross is watching. He says, "Hi, Dad." And there was a golf question.
Hey,
there was a golf question that Tim didn't get to. We'll kind of dial back. Someone was asking about golfing. I saw you and the boy were out at the driving range. It looked like you were driving on the lake. There was a lot of water down.
It was a little soft and a little wet, but it made it really easy to see where the ball landed because there was a huge splash every time.
Nice.
I don't know why it's open, but it is. So went up. It was his first time swinging a club.
Oh, cool. So where are we golfing before racing season gets going?
Oh, well, I'm practicing right now at Golf Zone down on Sackville Drive in Lower Sackville, doing the simulator stuff, but maybe Penn Hills, maybe Lost Creek up in Beaverbank.
Okay.
Those are a couple of the ones I hit.
Okay.
I hit a lot of trees,
Me
lakes.
too.
Yeah.
Me too. Okay. But
people say, "What's your handicap?" I said, "My swing." So
we could go to Air Lane by Scotia Speedworld.
yes,
That's a 9-hole. It's a cheap course. We can go there before the Pro Stock race.
absolutely.
Great.
I'm in.
We'll any other racers who golf, we'll get a whole crew there, and then we'll go have fun at the racetrack.
Jared Butcher. We were talking about it last year.
Okay.
Apparently, he sucks just like we do.
Okay.
So what you're saying
This
is
was
we have to have a whole like golf tournament now.
Yeah, this was there's no racing and it's COVID. That's how I ended up golfing.
The Masters starts tomorrow. We could have the losers.
Yes. Yes. I usually fight for last.
Someone will come out on top. Rob, I got to ask you, Tim brought it up there. You're a music guy. You like different things, but that pinball machine, where the hell did you get that?
That was a 16th birthday gift from my brother. He found it in some old guy's basement for like $300 or something. Took it out to Atlantic Playland because my old man was working out there. Had the pinball guy work on it, got it all up and running, and then snuck it into the basement when my mother had me out of the house. And then had a Polaroid of it. That's how long ago it was, in the birthday card. And then I came downstairs all excited to play it. He goes, "Oh, by the way, when we plugged it in, all the fuses blew. So we got to have it fixed." So I've had this now. I'll be 50 this year. And that was for my 16th birthday. So still going.
Is that your retirement investment?
It might have been at one time, but the internet has made them much easier to find.
Oh.
So they're not as expensive as they used to be, but yeah, I don't know. I'll probably just hang on till I die. Who knows?
2 Kiss questions before, I guess 2 or 3 before I throw back to Tim. Who's your favorite member?
Ace Frehley.
Favorite album?
Ooh, probably Destroyer.
Favorite song?
Ooh, my favorite song is
Let's Put the X in Sex.
Oh man, that smashes, thrashes, and hits. I always was a New York groove kind of guy. Ace Frehley, Shock Me, those ones. I like that. Cold Gin is probably my favorite all-time song.
Tim, this is the
Written
greatest.
by Ace.
Written.
Sung by Gene.
Weirdly enough, the T-Tote sings a song about drinking. Tim, this is my favorite episode. We've talked racing, wrestling, and Kiss. We can wrap it up.
And well, this is one of the reasons why we started the show, is to get to know the personalities and just get to kick back and have a little bit of fun. Jordan Vino said something about still don't have to have a roof number.
Just holding on to that.
Anything you want to elaborate on?
Somebody needs to update our rules, because it says if you have a roof number, it must be facing the tower.
So is that why like Danny Chisholm and Corey Hall to them have gone to like the very small Bubba Pollard sort of numbers? I
would assume so. Or maybe they think there's too much weight on the roof with that much vinyl. I have no idea. But it seems to be working for them.
It seems to. Freddie Bannister wants to know, is there anything nowadays, if you could change at any track one thing, what would you change for the better?
Oh, cost mostly. Personally, I know COVID was going on and everybody has to make money. I feel like the gate prices are too high to bring a whole family in. Sorry, Marilyn. Sorry, Ellen. Everybody that's watching that runs the track in the offices. I think it's too hard to get people in. I started seeing it when I was racing and they broke the $10 barrier in the front gate and the pits and all that. When I started racing, we got in for free and we got no money back. It was just for putting on a show. That's the number one thing for me. Cost of racing. It is what it is. How fast do you want to go? How much money do you have? Pretty doesn't make them fast, but a crap load of money does. So, I don't know. Just have fun. That's all I want to see. If you're not having fun when you go to the track, might as well stay home.
Absolutely.
And that was my motto every time we went to Shediac, and we had a lot of laughs even when we weren't having fun.
That's just it. There's apparently a lot of talk about a TCM golf tournament now. Corey Lund and Brandon Campbell both want to go. So, I mean, I guess that I don't know who would want Brandon Campbell on their team though. I mean, he's a great lineup guy. Is he a great golfer?
Can he even get his golf cart to run?
He's got those soccer legs, so we can ride the cart and he can walk.
Yep, he can walk.
He can push the cart if it breaks down. Steve Austin says, Rob, it's been great working with you at all the racetracks we visit. Thanks for all the help. Can't wait for 2022. Because there's a lot of great folks at Flag, and obviously yourself, Steve Austin, Craig Weagle, Tim Elliott up there, some guy named Denver Matchett, Joe Harry down at Lake Dowsett. I'm sure Joe's got a couple of ideas off of you in the last little bit. The one thing we didn't throw out before I want to go though, because I know we got Luke McLaughlin on the we talked about eastbound. So Paul, do you have the photo? Because Olivia Thorne told me I can't show this, but this was from eastbound. I think whenever we went over, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago now. We've got an eastbound sort of show next week. I don't want to let the cat completely out of the bag, but what can you say about that racetrack over there?
That track, it was an amazing experience. Like just driving into the place, it was just impressive. Like, Antigonish is impressive. Petty, when you drive up to it, you get that feeling when you're driving up to it. Scotia, it's home. But you pull up and you see a billboard that's as high as an apartment building. In the turn of the track, you're like, what is on the other side of this? And you come out and you're like, wow, this is impressive. And yeah, it's fast. It's scary fast. The fact that Bandoleros run the entire track just blew me away. But the hospitality, Patty Squires, Shannon Squires, Shannon saw me and he recognized me and he was like, hey man, how's it going? And his father was like, oh, you got to check this out. Joe Chisholm had me on the roof of the tower. There's not much to see but trees. Nobody's going to hear you scream. It is way out there in the woods, but just beautiful.
It's one of those, I know, coming from the other way, coming toward St. John's, it's almost like Riverside. I don't say used to be, but now with the new highway, they kind of cleaned out all those trees where you'd be going down the road and all of a sudden the tower would come out of nowhere. It's the same thing. The only difference is that a castle comes out of nowhere, and then you see a racetrack. It's a great experience, and their schedule's out. So if you can get over to one race, get over there. I'm going over on the 21st after the grassroots weekend at Riverside. So that's my one race at least for now. And trying to get some more. I know Mike James was on the phone with me, and Mike James is coming over this year. By the way, did you know that?
I heard he's bringing the monster trucks.
He's bringing his monster truck friends over in August. So it's an off weekend for the tour. So maybe we can get you to flag a monster truck show or two.
You never know.
You never know.
I told my buddy over there, Lisa Tuffin, you should come over too. That was one of the best parts. Got to see my friend that used to work at Scotia as a scorer.
Yep.
And you know, she's still there. You know, they have a fun time over there by the looks of it.
They have an awesome time over there. It's one of those racetracks. If you haven't gone over, make it a weekend. Go over, experience Newfoundland, experience George Street if you're into that, you know, party scene, whatever else. Go over and have a time. Todd Tuff says, well said, pretty was never fast, which I think we can all relate to.
Todd Tuff agreed with me. It's been a great night. Exhibition park during practice. I dropped the flag a couple of times because I was too busy drinking my coffee. Todd Tuff's always ran it over. I'd throw the green, it hit the track. He would always aim for it every single time. And you knew he was doing it because there was a smile every time he hit it.
Aaron said they're stocking up on Twizzlers already. So that's a good sign. And before we go, we have a request that you should sing happy birthday to Gramps.
No.
I guess we can leave it at that. Rob, this has been fun. We could go on for another hour or so, but we got Luke McLaughlin waiting in the wings. Thanks. Get ready for the racing season. I know it's going to be a busy one.
All right. Thank you, guys. Great to see everybody.
That's Rob Bowness. Vote on the fan vote while we're gone. We are going to take a quick break. We will be right back here on Tim's Corner Live with Luke McLaughlin on the other side.
It has been nearly a flawless race for William Sawalich. And for the first time in the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour career, William Sawalich is a winner here at Hickory in the Tough Shed 250.
You want hit with excitement? We hit the road. We hit the pavement. We're hitting a tour stop near you.
Playing bumper tag.
We hit each other.
It's got contact.
I'll hit that guy twice.
We're about to get physical.
Hit us up.
You ask why?
Hold your breath.
We're a hit with fans.
We are a hit everywhere.
Contact.
We don't regret it. You won't regret it. You want hit with excitement?
It is a land rush, and that's not good. Some big hits there.
This is the Cars Tour.
This is Christopher Bell, and Eastbound International Speedway is your NASCAR home track.
Welcome to Newfoundland, Labrador, home of NASCAR's most easterly home track.
An old dirt track here or something like that?
About 10 or 15 years ago, they built a dirt track, got people interested in racing.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring Newfoundlanders and Labradorians the opportunity to get into the higher level NASCAR. It's basically set the stage for anybody who want an opportunity to become professional. People that didn't even know where Avondale was to at one point, and now it's recognized all over North America.
At Eastbound International Speedway and the Newfoundland and Labrador title. From Conception Bay, South Newfoundland and Labrador, Wayne Walsh.
Just growing up, my family and everyone around me, I always loved racing and watched it a lot. So naturally, I always started watching it and I just went forward a bit more and it just ended up progressing to racing at Eastbound. Racing gives me the confidence to say I can do something that I put my mind to, and I can do this and I can succeed at what I want.
The NASCAR Advance My Track program. Be sure to vote for Eastbound 3 times a day. It started yesterday and it's rolling on through the month of May. But let's talk a little bit of racing in the province of New Brunswick, and a guy that knows a thing or two about picking up checkered flags and trophies, whether it's in street stock, sportsman, everything in between, 4-cylinder, you name it, he's done it. Luke McLaughlin joins us on the show now. Luke, welcome in. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
So how busy has your winter been getting ready for this 2022 season?
It's been crazy. We decided to take on, a brand new build at a street stock, doing something a little different, a little old school on a newer school chassis. So, race car wise, it's been busy. Lately, been working to dig up sponsors and stuff. Work's been crazy, picking up as it goes. So, nope, it's been a busy winter, but we got through it, and now we're looking forward to race season.
Now you've been doing some dabbling in some sportsmen. There was a couple of pro stock starts, but we're seeing it on the screen from the last little bit of you wrapping up and collecting street stock trophies over the last few years before that. So from a race fan perspective, it has to say, hey, Luke McLaughlin's coming back to run a street stock. We're going to see a show every week. From a race car driver perspective outside of you, they must be shaking in their boots, are they?
We have this joke quite a bit. A couple of guys that I help out in the street stock division, they keep saying they were having fun till now and stuff like that. Truthfully, it's just, I'm building my own car again this year. So I've always loved street stock racing. It's a little more my style, a little bit of bump and grind style racing. And, it's what I can afford. And I had a lot of fun doing it. So that's where we're going to go park ourselves for now.
You've been out of the class yourself, at least for a couple of seasons. We're going to talk about Speed Weekend in a bit, but what has changed in the last couple of years, or has there been anything changed in the last couple of years from when you ran full-time 18, 19-ish to now? Obviously, the pandemic has slowed down a lot of things too, but has there been anything mainstream or one thing you can pick out that's changed?
Really, it's, the rules package seems to have tightened up around, all the tracks kind of working together, doing their thing and kind of getting everybody on the same page. Realistically, the guys are getting faster. There's always, guys that were, top running cars now are dominant cars. It's, like I said, the street stock division is it's grown. It's probably one of the quickest growing, divisions around here for sure. And yeah, hopefully what we had a few years ago can still keep up now.
I think the big thing in the last couple of seasons has been bigger races. Yeah, we've had the Ricky Bobby. Yeah, we had the big race in PEI that Tom Nichols put on that's, come from the David Lamb into the Piston Cup to what it is now, the 100 lapper in August. We also have 5 races as a Maritime Street Stock series now. So from a racer's perspective, the deal itself, the division itself has grown not only at a weekly level, but also on the big race level, right?
It's huge. And tell you the truth, that's what I enjoy most. My last full season was 2017. We ran, championship season. I really do enjoy the, racing every couple weeks, 3 weeks, doing the big races. You make sure your car is ready to go. If it's not, you don't gotta, feel forced to show up for points. And there's a pile of them now. Like you can run, was it 2018 there? We ran, 14 race nights. I think 10 of them were 75 to 100 laps. It was some big laps. And if you're going to get to the point where if you're going to make it to the track, having that big number of laps definitely makes it a little more enticing, I guess, to travel or to do the, get your car ready over the next couple of weeks so you can get a big race out of it instead of a regular points race.
And when we look at the schedule, obviously there's a lot of big races at 660. It kicks off realistically this year. There's an extended race on day number 1 during the Riverview Ford Lincoln season opener. You've got the Target Windows and Doors 100 as a part of that Maritime Street Stock series. Speed Weekend is obviously big, but the Ricky Bobby is in the middle too. So there's a lot of big races. Mike Dusky, by the way, wants to remind you who won the big race in PEI.
He'll never let me live that one down. All I needed was a few more laps. You just ask him. He was watching the mirror there the last little bit of it.
Oh, I'm sure he'll come back at us. But you've won a lot of those big races. Obviously, 660, Miramichi, we saw Shediac. Is there anything that going back into the street stock division? Is there anything on that bucket list that you kind of want to tick off or maybe do again?
I'd like to go over to Oyster Bed. That is a big, that was a big question mark on my list, I guess. I feel I got to go back and, kind of take that one, take what I should have hopefully had that night. That's a big one. Petty, I've always had a hard time at Petty. I've won a few races there, but I've never felt like I had a car that was dominant or that, was a no question win. So, like I said, I've won a couple races there, but I've never been 100% happy there in the street stock. other than that, maybe the Maritime Street Stock Championship or Showdown. I don't see it happening this year. We'll see how it goes, but if I can make all 5, I will. If not, I'll get as many as I can. But those are the two big ones. Win one in Petty, where I'm actually happy with the car 100%. And like I said, Oyster Bed is my big bucket list there now.
The end of the season, obviously Denver's not here to ask the question, so I will. You took that big win in Miramichi a couple of years ago, and it seems like that race has been won by some big names in the street stock division. Yourself, Cole. Obviously, when you go there, you have to think of a James Matchett and a Brad McLean and those guys. It seems like that race, everybody comes with their A game. Is that on the list again on your street stock return?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I haven't gotten a schedule set in stone right now. If it happens that I have something going on, that weekend or whatever, I'm not going out of the way to ruin family plans for that. But if I'm anywhere near available, I will be there for sure. I love Miramichi, probably one of my favorite tracks to drive. It's a challenging track, and it's very much so comes down to probably driver more than setup a little bit. But like I said, I love that track, and I'm hoping to get back down there maybe even a couple times this year.
Now, Cole told me a couple of years ago when we were talking about schedule when 660 ran every single week that it would kind of be nice to have a couple of weeks off or have a condensed schedule. And now with the pandemic and these racetracks working together with 660 and Petty kind of going on back and forth weekends, we've kind of got that. Does that help you decide kind of what races you want to go to? And what do you think about that as a driver? That's won a championship there, being there every single week.
I think it's great. I mean, like I said, I'm personally, I've got, 2 young kids. I'm not quite in the position to be running weekly or even bi-weekly at times anymore. But, I said for years that I thought a little fewer races would actually get more guys out and get them more, more into running for points. My big thing is I wish they would let you, drop a race or two, right? As far as points wise. That would allow somebody that, say, God forbid, has a wedding in the summer that they got to go to, or, misses out because of a family event or misses out because of unforeseen circumstances. It wouldn't take them out of the points right away. I think you may end up getting more of a turnout that way, because guys, if they know they can miss a race, say a race, maybe 2, they'll still push to make the other ones. Whereas right now, if somebody misses a race, couple races in, they may, kind of give up on the points run because by that point it's too late, right? So they may just, settle with kind of doing what I've been doing lately, which is racing when you can and when you want. But I think definitely every second weekend is a huge step in the right direction. But yeah, I mean, most guys can make that, everybody's in a different point in their life. And right now for me, it's not a weekly thing, but I think they're, making a step in the right direction with a little more staggered races and a little bigger races.
Now we are live and interactive, so drop a question or a comment for Luke down below in the Facebook chat. Bob Goodwin, just because Bob's there, he doesn't bite in the chat. So just drop your own comment. But Bob said he lost one at 660, didn't you, Luke?
I did. 2018. That was I was leading 2 laps to go. Caution came out, and turns out we broke an oil fitting. It wasn't terrible till you came on the throttle pretty hard, and then it smoked bad. And unfortunately, they pulled me off the track with 2 laps to go, and it could have been anybody else behind me but the 77 who took the win on that one, and he'll never let me live that one down. That was the only race that season we didn't podium, and it was because of a 10-cent oil fitting. So he reminds me of it quite often.
I'm sure that'll happen once again when we get back to the racetrack too. Bob doesn't seem to let anything go easy, which is sometimes a good thing and sometimes a bad thing. But he did lose a race to Riley at Miramichi, right? So
I heard that. I think he's over the hill. I think his his racing career is kind of a has been, or maybe a kind of was. But yeah, I think he's better off on top of the grandstands there at the racetrack cheering on Riley.
I mean, I'm glad you said that, but not me.
I'm sure I'll hear about it on my phone here any minute.
I'm sure he'll light up the comments here in a bit. By the way, if you're watching, drop the fan vote down below for tomorrow night, because we're going to make somebody really happy and be able to race in the All-Star race tomorrow night. 1 vote difference. Look at that. So your vote is definitely going to count, so drop it below. Dylan, what do you got for Luke McLaughlin?
Seems like Bob is almost like Jimmy Spencer. He never forgets.
Oh, me and Bob have had this going on for a while. I mean, I love, giving Bob a hard time. He gives me a hard time. Everybody else seems to get a pretty good kick out of it. So it's all in good fun, but there is some competitiveness there too. So.
Well, it's good having you on, Luke. And first time I really got to watch you race was at Speed Weekend last year, where we pulled double duty. You were in the Sportsman, and then you were in the street stock there. We talked to different drivers about going from a legend to a pro stock, but in one weekend, Sportsman to street stock, what are the big differences just going from seat to seat?
Everything's a little slower for sure. Street stock's a little more slip and slide. It's not quite as well handling, and like I said, it honestly kind of helped me go into the sportsman car, because coming back to street stocks, everything happens just gives you a little more time to react, I guess, and you get a little more comfortable in it. Also helps that I run a little longer wheelbase usually in the street stocks. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, everything kind of slows down a little bit. 10 laps, 20 laps into it, it seems just as fast as ever. But for the first little bit there, it kind of feels like you're running without a couple spark plugs. You're wondering what the heck's going on. So.
I'm sure, Tim, we were going to get to it, but that race, that street stock race at Speed Weekend, it was you and Michael Cormier neck and neck almost the entire time. Then you two tangled up a little bit. You were back together. It was almost like you were stuck like glue. You just couldn't get away from that 68 car. Take us back to that street stock race at Speed Weekend and back in 21.
Yeah, so Bill Story, he's out west working. He never got to race his car at all last year, and he sent me a message. I think it was like the Sunday before Speed Weekend, and said he had a proposition for me. So we talked, and he said he'd like for somebody to run his car for sponsors. So we decided to never want to turn down an offer at a race car. Went down to his place, picked it up, brought it home, scaled it with me in it, and went to the racetrack. No idea what was in it, no idea what the setup was. It's got a Tucker setup in it. It was very well done. Obviously the car worked great. So we showed up, and it wouldn't start. We spent basically all day. We thought we had it, got to the tech shed to tech, went through tech. We had to change a couple things. It wouldn't start, pushed it back to the pits. Long story short, we ended up getting it fired up about 3 to 4 minutes before the heats, and went out there, had to start dead last because of no practice. So we had no setup on it, no time in the car whatsoever. And the car was awesome. We had a good time. Like I said, it was a tight race, and everybody's watched it. Michael Cormier is quick anywhere he goes. He's cream of the crop anywhere he goes, and I was just happy to be running with him. We swapped the lead a few times side by side, got tangled up, but that's racing. After I come back out from the caution, unfortunately, I had a little mix up in the pits there. We had a right rear tire that got replaced with the left tire, so it did not work quite as good when we got back out there, and I pulled off and shut down for the day. But no, it was a lot of people have said it was a pretty good battle. I enjoyed it. So this year we'll be back out looking for another Speed Weekend good run.
It was one of the funnest races I had the pleasure of announcing. Tim was eating turkey, so I was filling in for him there.
Mike and Randy brought me food. I couldn't say no.
But I mean, if I had a drink for every time I said Luke McLaughlin or Michael Cormier, I would have been blitzed before the 250 would have been going there. But it was a fun race. Looking at the comments here, Freddie Bannister is wondering, Luke, what was the biggest win of your career? You guys got 2 questions, so let's go number 1. Biggest win of your career so far?
It would be one of 2. First one would be probably the original Ricky Bobby 100. Because Ricky Arbo was still there. And I mean, it was an electric day. There's no way to describe the way that day was. And, seeing him come down victory lane like that, like I said, that one there will stick with me forever for sure. And the second one was my championship 2014, the championship night in the street stock. We had a awful night. All I had to do was basically keep it on track, and I ended up in the beach twice from wrecks, avoiding wrecks. It was a very eventful night that should have been pretty simple. Keep your nose clean and you'll be fine. People probably seen the victory lane picture. There was I want to say somewhere around 50 people around the car. It was a, small team just starting out, second year in street stock. And, we just edged out, some big names like Rick Cashel, Roger Slocum, Rob Rains. And like I said, that one there was probably to this day my biggest win and my biggest accomplishment.
Freddie's second question, who is someone that is always hard to beat at any track you go? And that could vary because you have the guys who stick to one track or the guys who tour around.
Definitely we've said it already. Michael Cormier, anywhere you go, he's going to be fast. There's no denying that. Sometimes you can catch him on an off night that he's, not that much faster than everybody else, but he's usually faster anyways. Or Brad McLean. Brad McLean's another guy who, anywhere he goes, he's quick. He does his homework. He's been doing this a while, and it's always a good time racing with Brad.
Randy Titus is watching, and Tim, I know we'll get more into Luke's background here, but he wrote, given your past, Randy's asking, does your shop have the ability to set up a 4-cylinder to help an old driver?
Oh, I think we could probably make something work. We've got, I've got a shop here, a couple hoists I just built last year, working from home. So, I've been in the 4-cylinder division. I've been out of it for so long that even, talking to guys like Tristan Harris, who I was helping a bit with the street stock and trying to get, a hang of what these guys are doing with the 4-cylinder cars, it's way different than it was even back in 2012 when I finished my 4-cylinder career, I guess, so far. But we've actually got a Cobalt here in the yard, just something we built for, my father, my brother, friends, stuff like that. But it's nowhere near quick. It's a whole different ball game, and I've been out of it too long. So I wouldn't mind helping and, learning it a little bit again. But for right now, I'm definitely not gonna be setting up any championship 4-cylinder cars anytime soon.
So Tim, let's maybe dig back to those 4-cylinder days, right?
I kind of want to go there. By the way, Randy said old driver, so he must not mean himself, because he's still
young
the
chipper,
young at heart in that division that is there. He's one of the lifebloods of that division at 660. But I kind of want to transition to that by starting with the future, because last year they had 25, 30 plus cars a night. And there's talk of, new drivers coming out of the woodwork, gold drivers coming back, to the point where there could be 30 to 35 cars where they might have to run a B feature or split features up. It kind of ebbed and flowed at the very start of that division too. So from a guy that's been there before, that's been to victory lane, that's been to the top of the mountain in that division, what are you thinking of this division growing as it is right now?
I think it's great. Like you said, I started 2010. I ran, I want to say, 2 races in the division. 2011 ran my first full season, and it was, I want to say, 7 or 8 cars. There was a few of us, and a lot of them actually ended up, running. You got guys like Justin Cole, Tyler Savek, TJ Medor, guys that nowadays run, street stock, sportsman. Curtis Collins went through it. Last year I was running 4-cylinder. It's grown by leaps and bounds. Realistically, it's the new street stock division's what it is. It's your street car that you pull off the road, put a cage in it, and go racing. I think what I'd like to see them do is a little bit more of a kind of a beginner division, and then maybe either go with like a little more open division for the guys that wouldn't mind putting a couple extra bucks into it. Not quite at the level of a street stock budget per se, but say, the guys that really want to do some serious racing, whether that be like a V6 division, something along those lines, just to kind of split it up so that you've got the guys that are out there. The 4-cylinder division a lot of times gets the beat and smash reputation, I guess, which most guys aren't there for, but there are the select few. I think if you opened up another, a little offshoot of that for a little more expensive, maybe not expensive, but a little more refined race cars, maybe those guys be a little less likely to beat them up, and then you could split the class off that way maybe. But that's I've thought that for years, and I think it's great that they've got the big numbers, but I think that might be a good idea in the future.
It kind of answers my question of the next way I was going to go with this, because we could sit here and talk about qualifying formats and how to split it up and that, because we obviously saw last year a 30-something 4-cylinder field it goes into like an hour and a half with no time limit when there's cautions all over the place. So I guess you kind of answered my question of how do we kind of fix that? But is that sort of the thing? Maybe like a Scotia Speedworld deal, what they do with their Bandoleros, where you get a beginner class and then, you know, kind of move those faster guys or more experienced guys up into their own little division?
I mean, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea because you've got people out there that are just out there, you know, they want to pull the car straight off the trailer and just go out racing and load it back on the trailer and pull it off next week, right? And then you got the guys that are spending their weeks and their money really refining these things. So I think it'd be a pretty good way to go about it, and it'd be a good way to really see, you know, who's out there that's looking to win the championships and looking to, you know, I guess put the big effort in order to make it more of a street stock, what street stock used to be, compared to the guys that I guess are out there really for the fun of it and, you know, getting their laps in, and nothing wrong with that. I've been there. I mean, that's what that car we've got out back is, but it's just, it'd just be another way to split it up a little bit and kind of have an extra division for a little bit of a growth and a better gradual curve, I guess, in the growth of the sport.
Now, I know in Nova Scotia, the Bandolero division is the starting division, and it was for a long while at 660. And I know they're trying to reincarnate that class and try to build it again. But you mentioned the guys like Curtis Collins, yourself, Justin Cole, you know, TJ, the Tristan Harris's, those guys, BJ, that have come up through the ranks and have gone to bigger divisions and have gone on to win big races and big championships. For those guys that are just, you know, thinking, hey, I'm bringing out a 4-cylinder car for the first time, and see that measuring stick per se is, how neat is that to be coming from that 4-cylinder division to where you are today?
It's definitely, I mean, like I said, even when I first started, I mean, we had guys, you know, you had Kevin Peterson's one I can think of, who was, you know, he was quick, he was good. I went out there, I had a little 4-door Cavalier we had bought for $500 and, you know, hope for the best. And it does help you grow for sure. I mean, you want to run with the fast guys, either whether they're passing you, doing whatever. You know, it just, like you said, you can kind of get a measurement of how you're improving, how you're doing, and it's motivation, right? So I think then you see that a guy that you raced with moved up to the next division. So then you think, well, you know, maybe I could do the same, right? So you end up following their footsteps, and you know, it kind of builds from there. And I started in a 4-cylinder, and I've ran as far as pro stock last year. So I guess you know, you can keep moving as long as the opportunities present.
Now, I see we have a couple of likes on the video. I want to say hi to Fred Broussard and Dylan. We talked about Lake Dowsett earlier and guys that have come up through Sportsman. I want to see Freddie back in a race car. I don't know if that's possible or not, but I know he's been itching to get back into something. I know he's out there. Want to say hello to him and everybody that's watching out there. I see Keith McIntosh, like to Glenn Knott. I missed his phone call earlier today. I got to call Glenn Knott back. I want to get him on the show at some point to talk about his deal coming up with Brent Enterprise. But probably the most colorful guy in racing in the province of New Brunswick, because he lays the colors on half of the cars that are on here, is Jack Wilkins. And Jack wants to know if you're going to have a pretty car this year.
I think it's going to be a pretty special car. I've actually talked to Jack about possibly even hand lettering this one. It's an original 77 Malibu Classic. So something a little different, something old school. Guess we'll see how Jack can do.
I'm sure he's going to have some ideas.
Oh, he's got ideas. All right. Some of them you got to rein in a little bit. That's fun. I've learned to work with them. Absolutely.
Drop us a question or a comment down below. We still got a little bit of time. I think the fan vote, if it's not a tie, it's one vote. So get your votes in there. We got about 15 minutes or so left on that before we crown a winner. Dylan, what else do you got for Luke McLaughlin?
I'm sure we could brew up a few more questions here. So Luke, the sports and racing, I know you're talking a lot about the street stock stuff, but any aspirations of maybe doing a bit extra with the Sportsman, or is that going to be on hold, or are you going to be a super sub if someone needs a driver? What's the plan for that this year?
I definitely wouldn't say a super sub, but if anybody wanted to, put me in a car for a day, I wouldn't say no. No, the Sportsman car, Pro Stock car, that was my old boss, Chris, actually owned them. Chris Warren. he's a sponsor on this new car. He ended up getting out of the Sportsman and Pro Stock altogether. Just he was having to, like you said, build a house, stuff like that. So he just got rid of both cars. So this is the street stock's all I got right now. Like I said, I mean, he was the only real reason I got to try any of them divisions, because that's some big money stuff that I personally just couldn't afford. But it was great that he let me run that Sportsman car for a few years, Pro Stock car for a race. But yeah, I mean, for now, I'm going to concentrate on street stock. Not saying I won't, move into Sportsman eventually down the road, but I'm pretty comfortable with street stock right now. It's something I can, reasonably afford to run. And like I said, we'll see where this one takes us. I've got enough time and effort into this car now that I should get it hopefully a couple of years out of her anyways.
Where haven't you raced that you would love to bring any car that you could? You talk a little bit about your New Brunswick racing and PEI. Do you have much experience racing over here in Nova Scotia?
I don't. I've never been to Nova Scotia. We wanted to take the Sportsman car out there a couple times, but the spring rule was the big one. Just a whole different setup on the front end. Like I said, that's just the one that really killed us, and it just didn't work out with their schedules. Like I said, I really wanted to run, Riverside be the big one for sure. Scotia looks like a blast. Lake Dowsett actually looks like a place that I'd love to try. But no, I hopefully, if they can get some street stock racing down there, we'd definitely make a trip, down a couple times. There's no, it's not all that far anyways, but unfortunately there is no, regular street stock racing out anywhere in Nova Scotia right now, I don't believe. So hopefully if they come up with something, we'd be down for the trip.
And that's the big question we hear almost every week now, Tim. Even Michael Fancy in here says, will street stock racing ever come back to Nova Scotia?
Yeah, I don't know about Scotia Speedworld itself, but Luke hit the nail on the head about trying to get cars. Sydney's been trying to do that for a couple of years. And when you try to put a division together, which only has 4 cars for a major show, and plus being a long haul away, you kind of have to make the whole magic potion or the magic pill, as Cy Harvey would call it, happen. By the way, Dylan, those cars that Luke was talking about that Chris had are in a shop in Bedford right now. So maybe if that gentleman needs a driver, maybe we can get a hold of him and get Luke in a car and maybe get that one Scotia start out of the way. What do you think?
I've definitely got myself quite comfortable in that Sportsman car. The gauge layout, the switch layout, it's all built by me for me. So, if you ever needed a substitute, just give me a call. I'm a short drive away.
There we go. We might have to talk to the gentleman down there in Bedford. You know who I'm talking about, Dylan?
I think so. Do they do things with like clearing snow sometimes?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Mike Dusky wants to know who is the best cheater, me or you? And I'm going to throw in, because Bob's in here, because he said something about cheating McLaughlin. Who's the biggest cheater between the three of you?
Well, I guess it depends on the day and who wins. It's Bob's been doing it longest, so I'm going to say Bob probably got the crown on that one. Maybe he's not cheating right anymore, but he still tries. I've worked on a car that Mike owned and found a few things there that I definitely wish I would have thought of first, or thought I could have got away with. But whatever we can get away with on the track, and then whatever we can get away with on the tech shed, I guess.
Absolutely fair answer. Freddie Bannister wants to know about how do you feel about being the last Triple Crowns champion in the street stock class in 2018, and to beat some of the best to get it that year.
That's, like I said, that was another good one for us. But once again, I said that before, and Petty has always been kind of my nemesis. I can't seem to quite get it just right. We won that Triple Crown, but I think we may have won one race, which I was happy with, but not 100% comfortable, and finished top, probably podium the second two. But the Triple Crown was cool, but definitely still working on my Petty game.
Absolutely. And we mentioned trying to look forward. The schedule's not set yet, but do you have a date for that first race that you're going to get to, that at least you have the car ready to shake down on the racetrack, ready to go?
We're still hoping for opening weekend at 660. It's a long ways from done. We were dealt quite a blow here with a motor. We had a crate motor on order, and it doesn't look like it's coming, and they have no idea if they're ever going to make them again. So that's kind of got a little bit of a stick in the spokes there, but we'll see. If not the first weekend, it'll be the second race weekend at 660. It's just up the road here, so I'll probably shake it down there.
And obviously, there's going to be some travel and what have you in the program. Minus the schedule, logistics, whatever. Getting to, we talked to Rob earlier tonight about the one race that you want to get to that is you always circle every year. Obviously, the Ricky Bobby is big. You've got those big races. Is there one race that is going to be easier to get up for in the morning and go to the racetrack than the rest of the others?
I will say the very best fall shootout, Miramichi. Like I said, it's my favorite track to drive. Close second was Oyster Bed as far as racetrack wise. But Miramichi, you go out there, you always feel, very welcome. Barry's awesome out there. And I love the track. I've always done good there, and it's a hell of a day.
Paul, you know what we forgot to do during the show tonight?
Yes, I do.
yeah, right there. Let's do this. Oh, by the way, we got an announcement to make. We have every race from Speedway Miramichi on Tim's Corner TV this season. We forgot to do that at the start of the show, Dylan. So
surprise!
That's a big deal for us. I think it's 10 shows, and it begins on May 28th with their Spring Smash Atlantic Modified Tour, whatever else. We were supposed to do that at the start of the show tonight, but we got done with t-shirts and everything else.
We were talking wrestling.
We were talking wrestling and Flagman and whatever else, but I know Denver's not here. By the way, surprise, we're going to be back every race at Speedway Miramichi this year. So add that to Scotia Speedworld. I don't have it on the schedule yet, but Dylan, I think it's 32 races that we're doing live.
Really?
22 at Scotia, 10-ish at Speedway Miramichi, plus we've got a couple more that haven't been announced yet. So that's going to be big. So for those that are in Miramichi, I know Mark Kingston asked about the schedule last week. There it is. We've got something else for you. So for those that haven't checked out the very best fall shootout, you can go back. Last year's race is up there. And I know that was a battle at the end between a couple of heavyweights on the street stock side. And Luke, that's one of those races. The Ricky Bobby is kind of the same, but there is a late model support class usually that day. But it's one of those races that the street stocks are the show. So it's kind of different than, those other big races that, like you have we'll take the Petty race, for example, that's happening in June, 4,000 to win. That's a big race. Oh, by the way, the Pro Stock Tour is there, which is great. It brings out a whole card. But in Miramichi, the street stocks are the show.
Yeah, I mean, Miramichi's been, I'd almost consider it, the home of the street stocks for the last little bit. The track just lends itself to some real good racing. The surface is rough. It's grooved up. It just makes for an awesome show. The street stock cars are slipping and sliding a little bit. The steel fenders, they can take it. I don't know. There's just something about Miramichi. It's cold. There's lots of action. There's usually a pretty good turnout of cars. Like I said, to me, even if I didn't have a car, I'd be there to watch. That's for sure.
How tall was the first trophy you got at the fall shootout? Freddie Bannister wants to know.
Oh, I'm trying to think. It may be 5 feet tall. It's definitely not anything like Logan got last year, but hopefully this year we can get something just as big as his.
Mike Dusky wants to know, we're good at apparently finding rides over the winter for people. He said he needs a car for the Ricky Bobby. So can you find a car for Mike Dusky to race that race? And if you do find a car, you got to find something that's a little dialed back, so at least you can get into victory lane ahead of him, right?
Oh no, we'd want to go side by side across the line with me just inching him out for sure. Me and him have been there before, and it's a good time. No, Mike's been hard at me. He always wants the updates on my car, and he's told me he wants to buy it when it's done, but I got way too much time in this thing now, so he's gonna have to bring his pocketbook if he wants it.
Just going back through some old comments, Dennis Nickerson says Luke's old street stock is 5 minutes from Riverside now. So I'm sure somebody has it down there, but maybe that's a little bit of a tidbit for you if you didn't know. It's
quite possible. I'm trying to think of which one. That must be the last one I had, the one that Chris owned, the other Chevelle there. I heard it was bought from Nova Scotia. Don't know who bought it, but they've got an awful good car there.
Randy said, if you can get your right-hand man, your dad, into that 4-cylinder, I have a driving suit for him.
Well, there you go. He's my dad's the same size as Randy, so they should be all right. But we are hoping to get him out this year. My dad's been my right-hand man, like I said, for for the past 10, 12 years of racing. He's here usually every night. I'm surprised he's not here yet. He's usually out here till midnight, 1 o'clock, working on this thing, bending up some metals. So, I'd like to get him out and get him to try it. He's been in the street stock before, 4-cylinder, but it's usually right before it turns dark on a practice night, and he gets 3 laps in before he can't see the lines. But, hopefully we can get him out and actually get him racing this year.
So get him out on one of the day races at least to start, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, his eyesight's fine, but I mean, they don't turn the lights on for practice, right? So you'd like to get him something where he can actually see the track and get a feel for it, in the daylight.
I know my eyes going down the road at night aren't as good as they used to be, so I can know that. Dennis Nickerson said bought it from Patricia, hoping to get a few races in this year. So it's in Dennis's shop.
That's awesome. Like I said, that car, I realistically was hoping to get that back at some point. I had a lot of work and a lot of time into that car, and it was a good car, and he's got definitely a good ride there.
The comments are rolling in now. Absolutely. Bob Goodwin, obviously, the man can bend metal, and he's a pretty good carpenter too. So that talking about your father.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He does quite a few of them. Riley's car past few years, it's been all his body. The 00 Carl Schaefer, that's all custom built stuff that we did here in my shop. Same with that old 11 car, the one that is over in Nova Scotia now. That's all a custom built body by us. My dad he's fussy. He's a carpenter, and he's good with a fascia metal bender. So we put him right to work, and he's got his work it out for him on this one.
Richard Miller says, by the way, Dylan, get off your phone.
I just was looking at the scores. Is Washington winning?
I don't know. Is Toronto actually still playing?
Oh God, they blew it last night, didn't they?
I don't know. I mean, I'm into race cars now. I don't know about you.
They blew it more.
My team's not in the playoffs, so
they blew it faster than Mike Dusky at the finish line.
Ooh.
Just kidding.
Boy.
Just kidding. I had to, because you guys were talking so much about it.
Well, Ricky's not banned off Facebook, so we're going to get his question in before he does get a Facebook jail ban or whatever again for the next time. He wants to know, does Miramichi eat tires on the street stocks as bad too? He knows from experience they're hard on the mini stock tires.
It is absolutely the worst track on tires I've ever seen. It's like a cheese grater for tires. You know what? You better have some good tires to start the race. I mean, I've seen us the very best fall shootout. We started out with 10 lap old tires for the feature, and by the end of my burnout through the figure 8 there, they were down to the cords. So you better have some good tires from your machine, but it's worth it.
Mike Dusky wants to know, why was there no talk about after the OBS race?
We'll just leave that one in the past. That was a bad night. I was a little heated. We ended up like I said, we'll just say we'll leave that one at that. We dominated that race for quite a while, and then a couple questionable calls put us to the back, and I came up through quite angry, and some of the comments that were made weren't all that in my favor. So nobody got hurt. Everybody's still racing, so we'll leave it at that.
Ricky Miller says, last year I brought 12 tires with me and left 8 there. Talking about Miramichi, because Bob Goodwin was in that match race last year. If Barry gave you a couple of cars and said, hey, I want you to get on the racetrack and go against your biggest rival or somebody that you swapped paint with before, who would be in the other car and why?
Oh boy, it's been a long season. Or long few seasons. I mean, there's no doubt. Everybody's saying it. Everybody's thinking it. Me and Michael Cormier, it'd be, he's been top of the game for past few years, and I'm hoping I can give him a challenge. But him, back me and Rob Rains had a few good battles there when I first started running street stock. Me and Roger Slocum. Really, me and TJ Medor, that'd be a good one. Taking it back to the 4-cylinder days. Obviously he was my spotter past few years, and it's still to this day, he gets reminded quite often that he may have had the shiny car, but he never got the championship trophy.
Ricky Miller says, will you be making a return to Oyster Bed? He came in on the conversation late, so we'll let him go back and see the question himself. Freddie wants to know, where would you put that 8-foot trophy if you won one of those at Miramichi? And I guess the other question that we have for some of those guys the last couple of years is, how do you transport it home? A 5-foot trophy is hard to transport, but how do you transport an 8-foot trophy home?
I got an old diesel truck with a flatbed, so we can probably strap it down on that somewhere. 8-foot trophy, I'm lucky. I just put the garage ceilings up here last year when I built it and moved them up quite a ways. So I got lots of room for it. We'll just bring it back home.
It's about getting it there first, I guess, is the big thing, right?
That's right. I might just have to get the wife to drive up with a separate vehicle and bring that home with her.
You mentioned some of those names. It's good to hear Roger Slocum's name and a couple of others again that haven't been in a race car in a couple of years. Earlier, you talked about the street stock rules and a couple of things that are changing and them getting closer. From a guy that's been around this for a while, where do you see this division going in 5 or 10 years?
As much as I know it's probably not going to happen, I'd like to see that, think that it's kind of reached a point where any further than this kind of goes into sportsman territory. We're already halfway there anyways, even from when I started in 2013 with the street stocks, it's come a long ways. I don't know, obviously with the crate motor fiasco we're going through right now, that's going to have to change. I don't know if they're going to have to open up the rules on the crate motors, go back to builds. I don't know what that's going to do. But as far as chassis wise, I mean, I don't see it going much different anytime soon. It's basically a chassis with a steel body on it now and stock shocks compared to a sportsman car, right? So I really don't know what other quick change there be to make. Maybe a couple of jacking bolts in the rear, maybe a spec shock kind of deal. But overall, I think this class has kind of gotten close enough to sportsman as it is that any further and you're basically putting yourself into that territory.
You mentioned the crate motor deal, and obviously we're in the middle of a tire shortage. We're still at the end of the pandemic sort of thing coming out of it. As Rob said earlier, hopefully we see, packed grandstands. I know you guys in New Brunswick haven't really had that issue the last couple of years with the way the summer and the restrictions have gone. But do you see any of the shortages, whether it is tires, you mentioned the crate motor, having to change the way some of these drivers race or setting up tire wise per se, if it does come to that?
Definitely. I think worst thing is you'll probably see guys start to kind of skip out on the small races in order to race the big ones. Just a matter of, I guess, allocation of what you've got and using it where you can, right? Tires, like I said, tire shortages are going to be a big one for sure. Everything else is somewhat obtainable in these. Most of it's, Napa parts or auto machinery parts or whatever. But I think the tire thing's gonna be the big one, and the crate motors at this point. I think somebody blows up crate motor, they're into building one, or even rebuild parts aren't available. So that's gonna be the big ones.
We'll make last call on social media right now. I can tell you the fan vote is tied. So we'll let it go a couple of more minutes and see if we get any more votes on it, or if we have to somehow let two into tomorrow's iRacing show. Ricky Miller again asked a question from before. Everybody knows you're the man to set up a street stock, but are you able to set up a mini stock? So I guess we'll ask it on the other side, because we talked about the domestic deal at 660. Have you ever set yourself in a Honda Civic before?
I have not. I would love to try one. Back when I had sold my street stock car in 2015, I got to try Matt Crocker's 4-cylinder again. That got me back into it, and it was a blast. So if I could, I'd love to try a Honda just to see what it was like.
You're running out of options of cars that you haven't sat in yet, because you've run the full gamut at 660 besides a Bandolero, I think. But you mentioned the Hondas. Is there anything else that you haven't sat in that you'd like to either do a race or, maybe have an opportunity to run a show or two?
Two of them I'd really like to try. First one would be modified tour. I'd love to try one of them. They just look, they're not the biggest power car, but they got lots of traction, lots of handling. They look like a blast, like a big Bandolero they look like. The biggest one I'd like to try is a Legend. They look real twitchy, real fun, and just a handful to drive.
Well, we mentioned Tristan Harris and Matt Crocker, and I've heard their names swirling around the modified ranks. So maybe they'll let you in for a practice or two, or maybe it translates into a race or two, right?
I'm actually working on Tristan right now. He had a bunch of my parts on his street stock car, so we're trading stuff back here now. But like I said, hopefully I could try it in practice maybe and see what that's like. But maybe I'll be able to talk him into letting me, try for a heat or so.
Well, there you go, Dylan. I'd love to see that.
It'd be fun. Yeah. Ricky Miller's offering a Honda ride for you there, Luke. You just wrote in the comments to become the oyster bed.
Well, that might entice me to make a trip over for sure. I'd like to make it over anyways, but that'd be a little extra help.
Tim, if we were getting commission checks for this, how many rides have we hooked up?
Well, he's got a hot rod in the shop too, doesn't he? Like it's been 2 years since it's been rumored that it's being built, but Ricky and Rick have a hot rod, don't they, Dylan?
From what I hear, Dodge. It looks like it was rolling in some of the PEI red mud, but that doesn't matter. Didn't we say earlier that it doesn't have to be pretty to be fast?
Well, that's just it, right?
So yeah, Ricky does the hot rod race there on the 30th, and then you jump in his number 17 black car, Luke.
I think I'll check the schedule, but I would be up for it for sure.
In total, how many events do you figure you're going to run this year? Will it be over 10 or around that mark?
I'd say probably 10 to a dozen. Like I said, we did that in 2018. We did, I think it was 14 races, 13 race weekends. One was a doubleheader in Petty, but that was the most fun I've had yet. It was just, every 2 to 3 weeks we had a race, couple back-to-backs, but it just seemed to be a lot less stressful and a lot more fun.
Ricky says just saving up some pairs of underwear before I get behind the wheel of this hot rod.
It's those V8s. They a little bit different than the Hondas for sure.
Let's talk about some other stuff here. We were talking some rock stuff with Rob a few minutes before. I see you're wearing a Rush t-shirt. Are you a fan of Rush, or is that just I need a greasy shirt to wipe grease on?
Honestly, it's whatever was in the pile at Value Village. Just buy the $2 and $3 shirts to get me through my work days here.
I was just wondering because we were talking about Kiss and all these rock bands. Like, of course, now if someone's wearing a Rush shirt here, man, we're just gonna be talking rock here. But okay, so that answers that, Tim. Not a Rush fan.
Absolutely. We made last call on social media, and there's people coming out of the woodwork. Sean Furlong, Luke, can I put some white paint on that pretty Chevelle this summer?
You tell Sean to bring it. If he can catch it, he can put some white paint wherever he wants.
So, you're going to be fast. Sean's going to be quick too, but he gets behind the 8 ball or something. You're going around to lap him. You just give him a little bit of paint.
I'm just going to drive through him. He'd do it to me. I know he would. So we'll just cut the middleman out and just do it right away.
Good. There you go. Get it out of the way nice and early. It's going to be good to see Sean on the racetrack. Luke's new street stock came from me and the PEI Dirt 2.
The what now? Oh, yeah, Sean. No, we worked out. Yeah, that was a whole deal where I got a car, I pulled the motor out, ended up selling the car, bringing it back, and ended up being I traded an old motor to Sean for the chassis, and that's what I'm building now.
There you go. And Paul, I see you looking through social media. Is there anything that we missed over somewhere else? Because I'm looking at Facebook. We're on the Twitch and the YouTubes, and I think most of the stuff was before from Mr. Bowness, right?
Yeah, everything looks like it's been covered. Everybody kind of migrated over to Facebook. We are streaming on YouTube and Twitch. Shout out to everybody over there watching, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But looks like we are pretty well caught up with social media.
Yeah, and we're getting to the end of the show, and we'll call the fan vote as it is right now. I guess we're letting 2 into the show, right, Paul? Looks like we got a tie.
Got a tie for first and then a tie for second. Dylan Black, Danny Vitch going to take the win. Dave Horton, Jason Goss tied for, second.
Well, yeah, and second in this point doesn't matter. So we will send a invite out to Mr. Black and Mr. Vitch in a bit. So be prepared. We got 2 more cars in the show tomorrow night. So that's going to be fun. Luke, I know you don't do it alone. You mentioned Chris earlier helping you out on the marketing side. Who else is on that race car that you got coming on board this year?
We got some returning sponsors and we got some new ones. TJ Medora at Riverview Ford. He is, one of the guys who's been racing against me, and now he's been, my spotter. And obviously now he's on the car as a sponsor as well. Napa or Mucto, they're a huge supporter. They've been helping me out for years. I buy lots of parts through them, both through the day and on the race car. Obviously, Wilkins Signs have made the cars look good for the past few years. We've just been in talks here with Big T Trucking to get back on the car. He's been on the car a few years now, on the Sportsman car. He wants to be back on this one. Podium Performance Lubricants. Tim Holman, he's another, 4-cylinder driver from out here who's got a business, selling lubricants and oils. So he's sponsoring us all the Ames oil products this year. I'm just trying to think of who else I got on here that's right now. And like I said, obviously CB Warren's Auto Care. He's helped me big time past few years. He's been the guy that's owned the cars that I've run for the past pretty near 5 years, I guess. So he's gonna hop on board this one. And just the guys that help me week in, week out. Basically my dad, TJ, my brother, anybody who shows up, we don't turn anybody away.
There's definitely space on the car and space on the crew if anybody wants to hop on and either turn a wrench or be on the race car this year, right?
Big time. I shouldn't forget Marked for Life Tattoos in Ormucto. Jason, he's usually, I've got a couple pictures of him fixing the decals. He's a tattoo artist, and he's good at making them look good. So he's done a lot of the decal repairs on my car. He's sponsored us a few parts this year. So there's still lots of room on it. It's a 112-inch wheelbase car, lots of steel and sheet metal there. So we're looking to cover it with sponsors.
And obviously, if Jack's going to make it pretty, and even if it's hand done, I can't wait to see the finished product of it. And I know there's only 40, 30 something days, whatever it is, until the racing season. So looking forward to seeing it. Looking forward to seeing it on the racetrack. Luke, this has been fun. Thanks for joining us here this evening, and we'll catch up with you soon at the racetrack, whether it's opening day or just a little bit further down the road.
Perfect. Thanks for having me, Tim. Good time.
That's Luke McLaughlin, driver of the number 11 Street Stock. And you see the partners on the screen as well. Want to thank them for coming on board with us for Tim's Corner this season. We also, we're doing our final preparations for Speed Sport, Dylan. So our marketing banners and all that fun stuff go in, I think, this week. So if you want to get on board with Tim's Corner, opportunity to renew and all that fun stuff is this week. So be sure to get in on that. T-shirts are going to be available. And oh, by the way, the one thing I guess we can talk about coming up is next week on the show, Dylan, because we are going to have, and I don't want to let the theme of the show completely out of the bag, but the voice of the NASCAR Pinty Series is joining us next week, Adam Ross.
Yeah, that's going to be so cool. The three of us, we were the three in the booth back in 2019 at Riverside, the last time the Pinty Series were in the Maritimes. That was so cool. And, to have that notch on my belt, that was only a few years into announcing racing too for myself. So to have that NASCAR sanctioned race that I got to announce with you guys, and it's still on YouTube too, if you want to go watch it. If you want to hear me and Tim sound like idiots next to Adam Ross, Adam Ross was great. Can't wait to chat with him next week.
There's not many announcers that I can sit back and actually enjoy listening to. I mean, you're one of them. I'm not just saying it because you're here, but you're one of them. Wade Wilson is kind of packed it in sort of thing. They're few and far between, but Adam Ross is definitely up there. And I've got to call a couple of those Pinty's races with them. Got to be on pit road for one of them back, I think, 5 or 6 years ago at Riverside. So looking forward to catching up with Adam. I know the series no longer comes to the Maritimes, but he's got his finger on the pulse, and he does a lot of stuff in Ontario as well and throughout. So really excited to catch up with Adam next week, and working on a couple of more guests. We might have almost an Ontario, I don't want to say an Ontario-based show next week, but we might be venturing off the path a little bit, but it's still going to be racing conversation, and I'm looking forward to it. So once again, congratulations to Danny Vitch and Dylan Black. Paul, they're tied. So I guess our eligibility for All-Star for tomorrow night is 28.
Yeah, and that's going to be a fantastic show. You can see the good drivers on your screen right now with last night's fan vote winner, Quentin Carpenter, making the cuts, and Mike Alexander, Wyatt Alexander. Just you can look at the names there, and
to talk to Wyatt Alexander for a moment. We were talking to Ricker after the show last night, and he said, "I don't think Wyatt's turned on his computer since the middle of the season for NEPS." So there's a couple of names on that list. The Wyatt Alexander, I think the Brad Eddy. There's a couple that haven't touched iRacing in a while. There's a couple of guys. I don't know what Brett Suggs is doing. I know he's running for Road to Pro, or I saw him running for Road to Pro, so he may not be there. There might be a couple of names on that list that aren't going to be there. I think if we land at about 20 of those cars showing up, I think it's going to be a good show. Last night was good, minus a few cautions, but I think we got that all out of our system last night. Big thank you to Shady Brook Enterprises for helping us out as well. Rob Bowness says thanks for the invite tonight. That was fun. Dylan tonight with Rob and Luke, and can't wait for next weekend. It's coming up quickly on the season. I think there's 45 days left until Scotia opens up. It's sooner than that for 660 and a few others, and then Test and Tune and whatever else. We are going to be busy on the TV side. Obviously, we mentioned Miramichi tonight if you missed it. Scotia as well. And then there's a couple of more races that aren't completely concrete set in stone yet that are penciled in on the schedule. So I'm not going to 50 races this year. I don't know if that's going to be possible.
You could talk all the big talk you want until it actually shows up. But just looking at my schedule and with the potential of, what's coming up.
Yeah,
man, oh man, it's going to be a busy summer, but busy is good. There's just been too many times with being stuck inside. I know currently, I know a number of people that have COVID right now and hope they're doing well. But still, we're getting out of the restriction part of it and trying to manage it. But it's so nice to be able to do stuff. I got to my first Halifax Thunderbirds lacrosse game last week. That's a great time. You on a rowdy night before race season, go to a Thunderbirds game. Oh my gosh, they were licking their own blood and fighting, and it was nuts. It was crazy. Actually, you know who I ran into there? We ran into each other via Instagram. We were talking. Jeffrey Breen was actually at the game.
There you go.
He messaged me. He goes, "You're not the only racing person here." So we were chit-chatting. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking forward, by the way, I know the MHL playoffs are still going on. I think me and Jeremy McDonald, I think, are the only two that have teams still involved in it.
Yeah.
The Yarmouth Mariners, I apologize to Steve McPhee. They're no longer a part of it.
They're done.
No South Shore Lumberjacks, no Dipsy Doodles after last night. They're done. So there's only 4. I can't wait to see. I think the first game in that series is Saturday. So I'm going to be heading up to see Truro and Valley duke it out and try to get to the next round. But that's going to be fun. Plenty to do over the next 40 something days before we go racing. And there's plenty of announcements and what have you coming up the pipe and things that we haven't even, that probably aren't even on our radar yet that are going to show up. But there's some big things coming up the pipe. That's all we can say. Tomorrow night, TCM All-Star Showcase presented by Shady Brook Enterprises. Live on Vidane TV, live on the Facebook. So wherever you're watching this tonight, you can watch this tomorrow. It's our final race for iRacing for the season. $150 purse. I think it's like $60 to the winner. Top 5 are going to get something out of it. Noel Fougier is going to lock up the championship. Come on back and join us. 250 laps, South Boston Super Late Models. Some of the familiar names that you're used to on the real track are going to be here tomorrow night as well. Tune in for that one. And then we're going to take a couple of days back to kind of relax and reload and what have you, and then be back next Wednesday for Tim's Corner Live, featuring at least Adam Ross, and who else is going to join us? We don't know. We will see. But that's going to do it for us. A big thanks to Luke McLaughlin and Rob Bowness, everybody that's watched out on Tim's Corner tonight. We will see you next week here on the show and tomorrow night for the All-Star Showcase. Until then, keep the hammer down. We'll see you at the track.